Hello, I'm Daniel Dobby. This is Love It TV, the show which is all about getting people off the sofa, into nature, social change, ecology, traditional arts and crafts. I'm travelling with my family at the moment in India. We're in Auroville, which is an international community in Tamil Nadu, a southern state. There's some amazing growing projects, social change projects going on all around Auroville. There's over 1,000 people that live here. Today we're at the Buddha Gardens, which is a lovely growing centre. It houses up to 22 volunteers. They've got some amazing produce here, and we're going to meet with Priya, that's going to tell us a little bit more about her vision and her approach to growing food and developing people. So Priya, we've been in Auroville now for 3 days. We've heard a lot about Buddha Garden. You've got a really exciting project going on here. Amazing vegetables growing, really healthy produce. Could you tell me a little bit more about your approach at Buddha Garden, please?
So this is an approach that we've developed over the 15 years that we've been here. And when I started here, I had quite a bit of practical experience, and hadn't done it sort of academically. So the thing is that people often ask me, what's the difference between organic, about what we do here, and what about industrial farming, what we call industrial farming. And one of the things that, because what a lot of people understand by organic farming is farming without pesticides and fertilizer.
Yeah.
And that is a minimum sort of definition, but I think what I try and get to people who come here, to all the volunteers who come here, that what we do is far more than that. Now, if you're going to grow food, you need 5 different elements, and you need those 5 elements whatever sort of farming you do. You need soil, you need water, you need seed, you need plants, you need animals, and you need pests and diseases. And it's funny, I say about the pests and diseases because they are part of actually growing food. So the thing about these 5 elements, if you are an industrial farmer, is that aspects of them, or even the things themselves, are just seen as inputs. And it's like a factory where if you're making handbags, you get the leather and you get the different bits, you get the lining, all that sort of stuff, and then you cut them out and then you put them all together and you make handbags. And food growing is seen in the same way. You have soil, you have water, you have seeds, and it doesn't actually matter where they come from. And the soil, if the soil's not very good, you just pile some fertilizer in, and if the water, you don't really worry about where it comes from. You just turn on the tap and the water comes. And the seeds, well, you get the seeds that will produce as much as they can. And also this kind of farming is very production oriented. So what we do at Buddha Garden is that we do, we have the same 5 elements, that's no different. We have soil, water, plants, animals, and pests and diseases. But what we try and do with each of these elements is to engage with them in a sustainable way. So when people say, well, what's your method? I would say it's about earth engagement. And so we actually engage with the earth with each of these elements in a way that is sustainable, so that in 100 years we can still actually be farming on this land. Now, for soil, for instance, soil is a living thing. It's not dead. And so what we try and do is to bring our soil to life. Now, when I first came here, the soil was like that. And it was just sort of like eroded clay soil. And now it's turned into a very, very beautiful, fertile soil. And but you have to keep working on it. So you can do that in different ways. One of the things that we needed to do was to bring a lot of organic matter to the soil and to bring a lot of bacteria to the soil, because soil, as I say, is a living thing, and you want all that life in it, because it's that life in it, the bacteria, that enable the plants to get the nutrients out of the soil, because the bacteria have a symbiotic relationship between the actual nutrients in the soil and the soil roots, and they allow the plant to take up the nutrients. The other thing about the soil is that you just kind of treat it very carefully. I'm always telling people not to walk on the soil here, because in this particular soil has a lot of clay, and if you walk on it, it compacts very, very easily. Now the point is that what you do with the soil is dependent on the climate, on the sort of soil you've got, and soil can vary. I mean, when you have 10 acres, the soil we have in one corner of Buddha Garden is different, and the sort of different from the soil that you have in another part of Buddha Garden. So it's not a mechanical thing. As I said, you have to engage with the earth, see what the earth needs, and give it what it needs. And this is one of the things that I also feel about being in Buddha Garden, is that the earth actually speaks to you. And if you watch and if you're aware, you can see what the earth is saying. And when I first came here, the first year was really, really difficult. I had a lot of pests and everything. And I realized that what I needed to do was to actually build up the soil. The soil is probably the most important part, I think, of food growing, because if you don't have soil, then I know you can do hydroponics and stuff like that, but actually if the soil's no good and it's being eroded and so on, it's not a good thing. The second thing is with the water. Well, we're in this particular area of Tamil Nadu. We are actually in this bioregion using 45% more water than actually falls down from the sky. And of course, as farmers use most of the more water than even some businesses, it's really incumbent upon us to use it very, very carefully. So in our particular case, what we do is we use irrigation. And our irrigation, the plants get the water they need and no more. And we have drip irrigation, and we're actually very lucky because we've got the money to do that. I mean, a lot of the local farmers, they're working on very, very slim margins, and also, of course, they get free electricity, which means that there's no reason why you'd spend a lot of money on irrigation if you have an irrigation system if you have free electricity, because you get free water and you just squirt it everywhere. But it's a terrible waste of water. Yeah. And then the third thing is the plants. Well, in Buddha Garden, we do all our own seeds, apart from rucola, lettuce, and radish, where it's too hot to grow the seed. We have to bring that seed in. But the rest of the seed we do ourselves. And the reason, if you do your own seed, the plant gradually adapts to the particular environment of Buddha Garden, and we have actually seen this happening. And one of the really good adaptations is they get used to the pests. So after a while, you don't actually need to use a lot of things to sort of get rid of pests, because the plants do it themselves and they learn. And that's if you do your own seed. So this is a brinjal or an aubergine plant, and as you see, this leaf here has got really quite badly sort of chewed by something, and this one here and this one here. But if you look at these shoots coming here, you see they're quite healthy, and also you see it's got a lot of flowers coming there, so it's going to have quite a few brinjal aubergine, and the leaves look healthy. And this is an example of the way that the plant can actually overcome the pests. We also grow things. We grow mostly indigenous stuff, and it's either indigenous stuff or stuff that will grow in this climate. We don't, in Buddha Garden, try to grow things that it's really difficult to grow here, like potatoes, carrots, cabbages, and that sort of thing, because it's just too hot. And I personally don't bother, because if you're going to try and say grow zucchini or something, I mean, you have to put them in the shade and you have to fart around with them, and then you only get very tiny zucchinis. So I don't do it. But some people do try in Auroville, because there's a lot of foreigners here and they like that sort of vegetables. Now, when it comes to animals, we only have a few chickens, and we only have the number of chickens that we can feed from the land here. Our working definition of sustainability is that everything we need to grow food comes from the 10 acres of Buddha Garden. And that's our working definition of sustainability. Now, at the moment, in fact, we're not doing that, but we don't have very many external inputs. We have leaves, because we can't make enough leaves for our compost, We also get something called coconut fibre, because we need that for making our nursery mixture for growing the seedlings. And what else do we? And those seeds I told you about. So we don't have very many external inputs, and we're working all the time to try and reduce them. Now, as I said, we were talking about animals. Now, the thing about our chickens is that they're integrated. We call them integrated chickens because they're integrated with the vegetable growing. We weed the beds. We give the weeds to the chickens to eat. They make them into compost. We put the compost back on the beds. So we don't have many chickens, and we certainly don't have cows or anything like that, because we do not have enough land to grow the food that they need. We're not hardline vegan here, but we feel quite strongly that, you know, we have to eat a lot less animal products. Pests and diseases. Everybody comes here and says, how do you get rid of pests and diseases? We don't. We don't try and get rid of pests, we don't try and get rid of diseases, we don't try and get rid of weeds. What we try and do is to, first of all, if you have a healthy plant, a healthy and adapted plant in a healthy soil, the amount of pests that you get are actually very small. And when we do get pests, what we try and do is to make the plants stronger by giving them sort of our liquid fertilizer and stuff like that. Pests, if we get pests, which we don't very often, then we remove them from the bed. And then what we do is we do have some organic, we make our own pest pesticide using neem mostly. And then and with various other plants you can sort of use here, but honestly we haven't used it for a long time. And then the other thing we find is actually that if plants are grown in season, the pests are much less. A lot of our problems with pests came from plants that we were trying to grow out of season. So that is basically how we do. If you want more information, the thing is these are the principles by which we work. And these principles can be applied anywhere in the world. These are the principles. You have to look at your particular situation, ask people who are growing food there what they do, for the actual nuts and bolts of what you have to do to improve the soil, to use water correctly, to get the right plants. If you're having animals, you know, how many animals can the land support? And with the pests and diseases, how do you work with them?
Yeah.
And it's called Hands with the Earth. You can get it on Amazon, and you can also download it from our website, which is buddhagarden.org.
Someone died here today. Something fell upon the way. What you did that day made him given. What you did was punish him. Drag him down, stop what you're trying to do.